Now we have a treat. You don't get to hear Pastor Nancy or me speak. That's a treat, right? That's a blessing. Not in this atmosphere. We have a fella by the name of Eric Akutagawa, and he's going to bring his karate school here. He's going to give us a demonstration and also give us a message. So it'll be really, really a little devotional that he'll give us. So it'll be really wonderful. Eric came to know Christ in the 9th grade, and it was in Hume Lake. I don't know if any of you know Hume Lake, but it's a some of you know Hume Lake. It's a camp that they had that's equivalent to the Redwood camps that we have now. I believe it was in the Sequoias, but it must have been a beautiful, beautiful place. I wish I was there. After coming to Christ, he became very, very active at the Venice Santa Monica Free Methodist Church, our sister church there, and has been a part of that church since 1991, I believe. Not only that, he has even been a part of the Redwood High School camp for the last 3 years. And so every time I go into high school camp, he's there and doing a wonderful job doing things for the Lord there as well. He had interest in karate. Now, let me see. He said he was in the... how old was he? I think he was in the 4th grade when he started doing karate. And he just really grew in the sport and loved the sport, and he loved it so much that he started his own school in 1999, in March. And so he's going to come on up right now. Where are you, Eric? There you are. So you come on up for us?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's good to be here. Quite honestly, when I saw the schedule and I saw how we were following up the kids and then had to go before eating, I thought that was the most difficult place to be. I was quite tempted to just come up here and go, hiya, amen, let's go eat. Okay, but seriously, thank you again for having us. We're, as I said, very excited to be here. It's been a great process for us putting this together. I wanted to introduce some of the students that I brought. From left to right, we have Mr. Rick Parker, we have Mr. Mark Stanley, and Mr. Chris Dooley. Okay, so we are here this morning not only to entertain you, but to also teach you a bit about our art and what we do, and to give you a word of encouragement. Okay? Just like any language, the martial arts, your language is based on alphabets and characters. The martial arts is based on basics. And I'm going to bring out Mr. Stanley and Mr. Tooley, and they're going to help us demonstrate this. Can you guys see everything? Okay. Go in meditation stance, please. Okay, this is what we call star blocks, and it's just in isolation where we can teach the motion of your basic blocks. All right? So star blocks. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Back to meditation stance. All right, why don't you guys take a step up, because I know you're going to... Okay, so from there, once we have the basic motions, now we can start putting into 3 dimensions. We can add stances, transitions, foot maneuvers. So this is what we call short form 1. Ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Meditation stance and close. All right. So if they face... if you guys face one another. And if Mr. Tooley steps in with the right hand attack towards Mr. Stanley's face, he will do the first movement of short form one. Ready? And one. Good. And from here, now we can start doing counters and strikes. Back to ready position. Ready and move. Okay, so from here, Mr. Stanley and Mr. Tooley have put together their own self-defense sequences to demonstrate what they've been working on. So let's start with Mr. Tooley. And next up we have Mr. Stanley. Great, thank you, Mr. Stanley. Thank you, Mr. Stanley and Mr. Tooley for that. All right, next up I'm going to bring up Mr. Rick Parker. And Mr. Parker is going to show us what we call short form 3. And this is the first form where we will see actual self-defense techniques put together in a sequence. All right, whenever you're ready. So hopefully you saw some of the techniques that were just done previously within that same form. Okay, Mr. Parker has some self-defense techniques that he would also like to demonstrate. Mr. Parker. Thank you very much, Mr. Parker. So you can see as the level goes up, so does the amount of sophistication in the techniques themselves. We're learning new material and We learn different methodologies and different motions. Unfortunately, some of my colleagues have decided that some of the techniques were either too difficult to do or they couldn't make them work, and so they ended up cutting them out of their curriculums. The problem with doing that is instead of struggling and trying to make them work or seeking out help and trying to make them work, by cutting them out, their potential to be a martial artist was much lower than they could have been if they had worked with it. God made struggle part of our journey. Okay? So just like in the martial arts, how we have to struggle through the material, it doesn't come naturally for all of us. So we have to struggle through it, and we get growth from that. God gave us the struggle as part of our journey. This is what we talked about at our men's retreat last year. We talked about characters, champions of the Bible, and they all struggled. They all had struggles. But we also talked about how once they persevered through their struggles, how God blessed them and God gave them victory. Okay? Then the amazing part was, at least for me, was at this men's retreat, we got to hear the men at this retreat give their actual stories of victory. So these were men who shared how the previous year they had a particular struggle. And then we heard how they had persevered and how God had blessed them. Okay? And we heard actual stories, and these are actual guys, right? And they shared stories of how their marriages were saved, their addictions were dissolved. We had one gentleman he hadn't heard or seen his father in over 20 years. And coming up to the retreat, his father contacted him, found him on Facebook, of all places, contacted him and said, "I'd like to talk to you." And this gentleman said, "Well, if you want to talk to me, this is where I'll be. I'll be at men's retreat. You come up there and talk to me there." He actually made it, came up there, and dedicated his life to Christ that weekend. Okay? So we've seen amazing, amazing things come out of these struggles. Okay? So God made struggle part of our journey. Okay? And in the end, after the struggle, we can't have the struggle with also understanding that God has a blessing and a victory for us afterwards. Okay? Do we want victory?
Yep.
Of course we do. Of course. And in fact, this is my invitation to you. I'm also co-directing the men's retreat this year, and our theme is victory. So for all you men out there, high school age and up, I invite you to attend, because that's what we're going to be discussing. But we all want victory, right? And how do we achieve victory? We have to persevere through the struggle. Okay? And how do we persevere through the struggle of life? In martial arts, this is where the discipline comes in, right? We work over a technique over and over and over again. Okay? We continue working at it. But in life, it's a little more difficult. Okay? And this is where I was told your theme of extraordinary faith comes in, right? That's your theme? Extraordinary faith? Because it takes a faith when you're sitting in the struggle to understand that, yes, God is there with me. And He has a blessing and a victory for me at the end. I know as a culture, we're usually sitting there in the struggle saying, wow, this is hard, right? We're really good. As Americans, we're really good at focusing on our struggles, right? It's always about our pain, our discomfort. As I say, we're usually used to taking pills for our ills. Okay? But it takes an extraordinary faith to know that God is there with me in the midst of the struggle. And when I get out of it, I'm going to have a victory and a blessing afterward. Okay? That's extraordinary. We look at the centurion of the Bible, and his contact is very short, but I gained a lot out of it. Okay, here's a man, he's a Roman soldier, and he has a sick servant, and he comes to Jesus asking for help. Okay, was this Roman centurion struggling? I think he was. Here's a guy who was a commanding officer in the military, okay? Highly decorated. He was over 100 soldiers. Whatever he told these guys to do, they would do it, okay, without a heartbeat. So he had all the power and all the authority within that world, and yet he could not help his servant. Okay? Not only that, but you talk about the cultural context. Right? He was a Roman soldier. Jesus was a Jewish teacher. Okay, the Romans and the Jews, you have the conqueror and the oppressed. Okay, so you have the Roman soldier going up to this Jewish teacher to ask for help. I think that was a struggle. But he does it, and he goes there, and he asks, and he believes in Jesus so much that he says, you know what, you don't even have to come to my house. Just say the word, and it will be done. And this impressed Jesus so much that this centurion is the only person in the Bible who Jesus said, you know what, your faith amazes me. It's the only God. Okay, that's an extraordinary faith. And that's the type of faith we need when we're in the midst of our struggle. Are you in the midst of a struggle? Okay, then have that extraordinary faith that God is there with you and He's going to bless you when you get out. Okay? Some of you have been through the struggle, which is great. I mean, that's a great place to be. But the blessing that you've received needs to be shared with others. It is not for yours to keep. Okay? Just like in our class. When we learn something, when we gain an experience, it's not for me to keep. It's for me to share with others. And by doing so, I also learn. And I also grow. Okay? And so that's why when we have a struggle with a particular technique, we can work on it together over and over and over again. Okay? So we need one another. And we need to what we call pass it down. Which is important for us because in what we're learning, the mastery is not about defending one attacker. Okay? The ultimate goal is to defend multiple attackers. So if I have a deficiency, if I've decided to take a technique out because it's too hard for me, because I just don't get it, and it doesn't work for me, not only will it affect me when I have one opponent, it's multiplied then when I have to deal with multiple opponents. So with that, we're going to close up with a mass attack or a multiple attacker scenario. Okay? And just to let you know, we're going to do the first part. When you deal with multiple attackers, it goes by kind of quickly. So to kind of show you what's going on, we're going to do the first half slowly, and then we'll start back up again. Okay, just to let you know. But before we do that, we'd like to say, on behalf of the group, we'd like to say thank you for having us. It's been a wonderful experience for us putting this together. Want to encourage you again, if you're in the midst of the struggle, have that extraordinary faith. Know that God is there with you and has a blessing for you. For you men out there, I'd like to see you at men's retreat. Okay? Thank you again, and God's hand of victory upon you.